Well, newly added safety Kevin Byard spoke to the media yesterday, and he's as curious as we are about his new role in Sean Desai's defense. But you have to hear what one senior NFL insider said about Howie Roseman still calling for another trade. I've got some insight into who they might want. And Nick Sirianni gave an update on Jalen Hurts' injury. Safe to say QB1, no surprise, he's going to be just fine. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. Quick, what would you do if you had an extra $30,000 just lying around right now? Any ideas? Well, how about Nigel Bradham's Super Bowl 52 championship ring? He actually just put it up for auction for a cool $30,000, at least right now, based on the current bid. You could own a piece of Eagles history. Now, you could also own Malcolm Jenkins' Game War jersey from that same Super Bowl game as well. Current bid sitting at just a cool $29,000. Now, if you had the money to splurge, you might as well go ahead and do it. It would look great in your man cave, but it's crazy things are going that high. Do you guys have a favorite piece of Eagles memorabilia that you own? I have a signed Brian Westbrook jersey, and that's probably my favorite. Curious what you guys have. All right, let's go to a more serious note here. Philadelphia released their injury report yesterday following Wednesday's walkthrough practice, and boy, where'd everybody go? This looks fantastic. Only 3 players showed up, and wait a second, where's Jalen Hurts? He's not even on the injury report, despite the fact that all we keep talking about is his current knee situation. Head coach Nick Sirianni, he spoke to the media yesterday, and when asked about Jalen Hurts' availability on Sunday versus the Washington Commanders, he said, "We're confident he'll be ready to go." Okay, so is it nothing? Is it something? Forget about it. I'm tired of talking about the Jalen Hurts knee situation because he's gonna play, and that's really all that matters. Whether it's serious, whether it's not, he's gonna play, and they're not gonna tell us if it was serious because that's just how the Eagles work. Now, Jalen looked fine last night at his Time 100 event with his girlfriend Bree Burrows and seems to be having a pretty good time hanging out, having dinner, mixing and mingling with some celebrities. It's always fun to see Jalen Hurts out of his kind of football mentality where he's super serious and shows no emotion. I bet the guy's really chill and fun to hang out with outside of the NovaCare complex. Now, Jalen, the football player, showed up yesterday at the NovaCare complex and spoke to the media and naturally gave us very little in terms of his situation, but he was asked about the knee multiple times, and finally he gave at least somewhat of an answer.
Where are you at with the knee?
We're just taking it day by day. Just taking it day by day. I think it's just things happen, a part of the game. I've already said that it didn't happen in the game. So, it's just something that we're dealing with day by day.
All right, Jalen. Sorry, we'll leave you alone. We care about your health and safety. Just want to make sure you're okay. Didn't mean anything by it. Although it is funny that he finished the knee conversation talking about how he's never been injured running the football, and yet people on Twitter immediately went, "Wait a second, Jalen, didn't you get injured running the football last year against the Bat?" Never mind. You're right. Now, the other good injury news yesterday was Reed Blakenship, who's on the report. You see it right there. But full participant with that rib injury. That means the Middle Tennessee State duo of Reed Blakenship and Kevin Byard, more on him in a second, will likely start on Sunday versus the Washington Commanders. Speaking of Kevin Byard, he was in the building yesterday. He was at his locker yesterday in front of the media, talking to people, being asked about his playing style and his abilities and all the new teammates he's meeting. He was also asked about his role and expectations for what he will do in Sean Desai's defense. Here's what he said.
Just try to come in, learn the playbook, develop a relationship with the guys, and just try to come in and help as much as possible. Obviously, this team has a great culture, a winning culture, has great leadership here. And I just want to come in and earn the respect of all of my teammates.
What's also cool is that Kevin Byard mentioned that himself and Reed Blakenship worked out multiple times this offseason because Blakenship spends his time in summer in Nashville. It's where he has a house. And the two worked out a lot together and seemingly have already built a little bit of chemistry before playing a single down in the same field. And the other safety in all of this who might be overlooked a little bit is Sidney Brown. He was asked about the signing of Kevin Byard and gave a pretty good answer.
Yeah, I think it's a great move. I'm excited to have him in a room, especially him being an 8-year vet and everything that he's done in the past. I think if you search up some of the top safeties in the game, he's a name that comes up a lot. So, I'm blessed to be in the position I am.
Safe to say Brown is still going to see the field as we talked about yesterday. But now he can learn from more than just Reed Blakenship and Justin Evans, but actual all-pro superstar safety in Kevin Byard. I think the insights that Byard can share with Sidney Brown are fantastic. Thumbs up for the potential there. Now, it's safe to say that Kevin Byard is very excited to be in Philadelphia. I'm more excited, though, about what Dianna Russini, the senior NFL insider at The Athletic, told Ryan Russillo on his Ringer podcast yesterday, confirming that not only Byard will have zero restrictions, will play 100% on Sunday, also spilling the beans on the fact that GM Howie Roseman has still been calling teams and is trying to make another trade before the deadline. Quote, "I've talked to a ton of NFL teams around the league, and it's like, yeah, Howie's calling. Of course Howie's calling, and Howie's not done, by the way." Oh boy, Howie's not done. You guys heard it here first. And my question is for who and what position? And I went back and listened to this part of the podcast on Spotify with Ryan Russillo, and Dianna Russini mentioned coverage linebacker, offensive line, and cornerback. She also mentioned that the teams that were sellers were Denver, Minnesota, Tennessee, still, and Washington, which of course led many people to believe cornerback, Denver, it's gotta be Patrick Surtain, right? Well, according to Albert Breer, Surtain is on the trading block despite other reports saying he was not on the trade block a couple of weeks ago, making the whole Philadelphia go in and try to make another big splash for another secondary piece very much alive on all the Twitter spaces right now. Heck, even SI.com released a preview of what a trade could look like for the talent caliber of Patrick Surtain, saying it would cost 2 first-round draft picks and a third-round pick? My gosh, that's a lot. Let me ask you this. I know you like Patrick Surtain. Would you be willing to give up your 2024 first, your 2024 fifth, and a third-round draft pick just to get him? Like, I get that Darius Slay is towards the end of his career. Maybe James Bradbury isn't a top 5 cornerback like we thought that he would be entering this season, but I still think you would hold on to those draft picks, not have to pay Patrick Surtain what will be a massive second contract when his rookie deal is done, and just get a cornerback next year, or get a cornerback next year in free agency, or get a cornerback in 2025. I don't think corner is necessarily the biggest need that Philadelphia has right now. I could be wrong. He's obviously an upgrade over Slay and James Bradbury, and maybe you could package James Bradbury back to Denver to relieve some of the cap space and then insert Surtain to be a starter. I don't know. I'll read the comments, up to you guys. Now, one player we've seen a lot all over the YouTube world is the name Derrick Henry being mentioned. Russini talked about how, yes, the Tennessee Titans are still major sellers and Henry is an option, but very little teams are interested and not a lot of calls. Now, there have been multiple reports saying Baltimore is very interested in trading for Derrick Henry, pairing him with Lamar Jackson following the J.K. Dobbins injury. But the idea that Philadelphia is going to trade for Derrick Henry, as I've seen on a couple of YouTube channels, is very, very unlikely. Don't take every single headline you read here as absolute gospel. I say the likelihood of them wanting to trade for Derrick Henry extremely low, just based on the fact that, do you really think Tennessee is going to give us Kevin Byard, A.J. Brown, and then Derrick Henry? I mean, we're just going to take their whole team? I will give you a name that makes a little bit more sense, and that would be offensive tackle, more specifically Garrett Bowles from the Denver Broncos. Not only has he expressed frustration with being in Denver and losing a whole bunch, but he also could be a great depth option for Philadelphia on just a really cheap one-year contract where you can put him in there if Lane Johnson or Jordan Mailata were to get hurt. Again, it's very unlikely because Bowles is a starter and he wouldn't want to come in as a backup guy, but if Howie's still calling people, don't you think he's out there trying to find somebody to add depth in case an injury were to happen? The Eagles roster is stacked right now. They're absolutely kind of set at all positions now, including safety, but injuries are the one thing that could make a major bump in the Eagles' chances of going back to the Super Bowl, and so in my opinion, whether it's Bowles or somebody else, depth pieces who might not be big-name superstars are more likely what Howie's targeting right now. Speaking of targeting, yesterday we found out that 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy has entered concussion protocol, all happening during a quarterback sneak, this one on your screen, against the Vikings. No, for idiots out there, this is a QB sneak. This is very different from the brotherly shove. Do your research. Do you see anybody pushing him at the very beginning of this play? Now, some are going to use this as evidence that the brotherly shove is dangerous, which is just, mouth breathers on Twitter. But I go with what D.I. Bird's blog said when he said, quote, "I can't wait for the NFL to use this as evidence for the tush push to be banned, even though it isn't the same play, instead of using it to highlight the incompetence of their spotter who failed to pull Brock Purdy out of the game." And as Kay Adams pointed out, Purdy was much worse after this play, going 2 for 6 and throwing 2 interceptions. Either way, it's major news for Philadelphia because Purdy is likely out on Sunday against a well-rested, coming off a bye week Bengals team, and if the 49ers were to lose a third straight game, this time with Sam Darnold at the helm at quarterback, the NFC is prime and ripe for the taking if Philadelphia can find a way to beat the Commanders. And we'll have plenty more updates the remainder of this week on Philadelphia's injury status and also the matchup versus the Washington Commanders. Make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe. Hit that like button. We try to get 1,000 likes on today's video. I'm Thomas Mott with all the latest Eagle updates. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.